unless you've already done that. Cheryl is from Mississauga Economic Development, and I reached out to her team to come to us. I think you presented to us a couple of years ago, probably 3 now, in our Mississauga office.
Yes, I did. I did.
And it was really, really, really well received, and we wanted to welcome you back today. So I'm going to give you the floor.
Sure.
Cheryl, and welcome to Meadowtown.
Well, thank you so much. As Alex and I were preparing for this presentation, I understood that there were 3 different teams across Southern Ontario that were coming onto this presentation today. So the information insights I'm going to share with you today, some assumes that maybe you know, but some is looking at it from the lens of maybe you're not as familiar with Mississauga. When this presentation is over, I will share with Alex and Crystal the PowerPoint presentation, which I only have a couple slides that go over sort of the infrastructure and some of the major things that are going on in the city. And then I have a list of web links. So everything that's going to be presented today will be available to you after this Zoom meeting. So as Alex mentioned, I work at the City of Mississauga. I'm just going to put my PowerPoint on, and please excuse the way I'm going to present it, because if I do it any other way, I can't see you. So my background is that I am a registered professional planner, and I'm also a certified economic developer. And I've worked with the city for about 30 years in multiple roles. I've helped build the parks. I've helped locate fire stations and libraries. I worked in the planning and building department for about 6 years. Overlooking processing and development applications. And for the last 15 years, I've been in economic development, principally focused on the business community. And I understand from Alex that most everybody on this call today is residential, but you do a little bit of business. So I'm going to start from the very high lens of where my position, my role is now, and give you some overview and insights about Mississauga at a very high level and go into the infrastructure. And then I'm going to dig down, and I'm actually going to take you on a website tour, because a lot has changed since COVID came into place. And the websites are very rich and robust now on where you can find different tools in order to help you help your clients, and perhaps give information and insights to your clients if they're considering Mississauga as a place to locate. So just at a very high level, can somebody give me a thumbs up, and if you can see my screen? Can you see my screen? Perfect, Raymond, thank you so much. So at a very high level, the value proposition for Mississauga, before COVID, we had 50 million people going through Pearson Airport, and we hope as COVID gets over and the mask mandate leaves and all that stuff, that we get back to that type of thing. So having Pearson Airport in Mississauga is critically important, and is resulted in a very strong community that provides a place for people to live, work, and play, and to have an abundance of employment opportunities that help support families. As you know, we have 7 highways running through the city, so we're well connected across the region. There's over 145 languages spoken, 1,400 multinationals from around the world call Mississauga home. We've had a AAA rating, which is important because it helps actually homeowners and businesses receive lower insurance rates, and it helps with financing as well. And we have 76 Fortune 500 companies and 65 Fortune global companies. We're proud to say that 70% of our workforce has post-secondary education. So it's a very educated population. Right now, we're just under 700 or under 800,000 people. Our ranking dropped. We used to be the 6th largest city in Canada. Now we're the 7th largest city in Canada. Our community has just under 100,000 businesses, and we have employment for just under 500,000 people. One of the things that makes Mississauga an incredible place for someone to live, work, and play is that the sectors of strength for employment for people are very diverse, and they're very solid. So life sciences is ranked 3rd in Canada. Aerospace is actually #1 by employment in Canada. Financial services is strong with 620 companies. We are large in food and beverage manufacturers. Believe it or not, we actually outdo Waterloo as well as York Region for information technology companies. We have 37,000 people working in it. We're just not very good at marketing the fact that we're very strong in IT companies and innovation. And automotive, you wouldn't think of Mississauga as an automotive town, but we actually are because of proximity to Ford and GM and Chrysler and Honda and Lexus and all of those different companies and Toyota around the region. What we're strong in is parts manufacturing. And then we also have a very strong clean tech community at about 430 companies. So there's the business side of why there are such great employment opportunities for people within Mississauga. Now, one of the things Alex and I talked about, which is wanted to bring insights to the team, was around infrastructure. There's a lot going on infrastructure these days. And these logos just identify some of the major projects that are happening within the community. So the Eglinton Crosstown is going to come across from Toronto, and it's going to connect into Airport Corporate Center just south of the airport. And it's got expectation that that linkage will be completed by 2031. There is communication and talk with the province to actually bring the Eglinton Crosstown and hook it up through Airport Corporate and link into the airport at some point. But that doesn't have funding at this time. But there's certainly some engineers behind the scenes that are figuring out what the best route would be and how much it would cost. So we expect at some point in the next couple of years that the province of Ontario will probably announce the bringing the Eglinton Crosstown right through to the airport and linking that in, so that there's now a secondary connection to the airport that connects the region and Mississauga. Another important infrastructure, and if you've driven through Mississauga lately and up here in Ontario, it's just not a great experience. The Eglinton, the here Ontario Light Rapid Transit is under construction. If you're north of the 401, you'll see that the lanes to which the LRT is going to be constructed, in fact, are dug down, and they're getting ready to do more infrastructure work there. And if you're south of the 403, you'll see the pylons moving in and out every single day of the week as they're moving the infrastructure. My understanding is it's still on track to be open in 2024. So they're pressing along, and this infrastructure is going to be 19 stations, 18 kilometers long, and it's going to connect 6 transit authorities once it's completed in 2024. One of the other logos you see here is called Dundas Connects. There is work being done to move bus rapid transit forward on Dundas. So that's Dundas Connects. And the other one that isn't up here is Lakeshore, actually it's Lakeshore Connecting Communities. There is work being done right now, environmental assessments, to do a similar thing, bus rapid transit along Lakeshore down in the south part of the city. The other thing that has been present in Mississauga and a little bit on the ugly side is the Region Appeals Water Project. And you will have seen along Burnthorpe Road and connecting down sometimes at Bloor and Cawthra, these large, massive areas where there's been infrastructure being put in place to enlarge the water system across the city. We're expecting that should be completed probably in the next 12 months is what my understanding is on that. If you've driven along the QEW lately, you're seeing it is widening, and we're finally going to get our lanes for 2+ people. The bridge across the Credit is currently being widened, and along with the bridge across the Credit River, you're going to see a bike pedestrian bridge that's going to connect the Queensway through to Mississauga Road, so that pedestrian traffic can connect through those areas. And so we're anticipating that this work will be done in the next couple of years as well. Let me see, what else do I have here? I think that's it for infrastructure projects. So the next transformation of Mississauga is the corridors. And I mentioned these are the 3 corridors. The north-south is where the light rapid transit is going to be, and Dundas and Lakeshore are going to be where the bus rapid transit. This is the next evolution of Mississauga, particularly from a residential perspective, because the densities along these three corridors are intensifying, and along with putting in, very large condominium buildings, those buildings are going to be mixed use, particularly if they're in about a half-kilometer range of a light rapid transit or a bus rapid transit station. It's going to be mandated by the region and the province that you actually have employment embedded with the residential. So you'll see more and more towers increasing in these three areas. And I'll just show you very quickly some of the images that are present. So in the downtown core, these are some of the mixed use developments. You've got Rogers is currently building their facility. You've got Oxford that announced 2 years ago, just pre-COVID, that they're going to be doing a mixed use. They're going to have an office building, but they're also going to have some residential towers. The bottom right-hand corner of this is Camrost, and they're going to be building 4 towers. And that's just in the downtown core. And then on here Ontario Street, this is just a snapshot of the ones that have mixed use included, but there's certainly more towers. And this is going anywhere from Eglinton and here Ontario Street right down to the hospital district. But you're seeing the densities increasing. Pinnacle is building out their property. Aaliyah has proposals in for their property at here Ontario and Eglinton. And then Great West Life is going to be coming in with some residential towers, and you're just going to see this all the way down here Ontario Street. In fact, probably in the next 5 years, you'll see many of these sites breaking ground, and the densities going from 18 stories up to 50 stories along here Ontario Street. And then along Lakeshore, the density is a little bit different, but you're now starting to see older commercial properties, the brownfield properties, starting to come in with development applications. So if you've been along Lakeshore right now, you'll see the Brightwater, which was the Imperial Oil site. It is currently under construction, and you will see those lands probably ready for occupancy or interior alterations, probably by the end of this year is what you're going to see for the buildings fronting onto Lakeshore. But then, there's the existing beer store location. Well, they're proposing a 12-story residential building in that location with live work units on the ground floor. And every commercial property along Lakeshore is now starting to see preliminary development applications or development applications where they want to start transforming it so that the commercial remains on the first floor, but we're now starting to see increased densities along Lakeshore. And it seems to be buildings that are anywhere from maybe 8 stories to about 12 stories along Lakeshore, which reflects the character of the Lakeshore area. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. Are there any questions about what I've presented so far?
What do you see happening a little bit sort of as we go into Lakeview a little bit more? Can you expand on what that might look like in a few
Sure.
years?
That is a great segue. And maybe Crystal, maybe you can run that video that I had identified in your links. Can you run that video for great segue, Alex?
Sure.
That was completely unintended.
But it was perfect timing.
Perfect.
And this video, which Lakeview Community Partners put together, really shows what the future is going to be. If you scroll down a little bit, Crystal, scroll down, you'll see the video on there.
Oh, right there.
It's right there. You're doing the same thing. I'm not hearing it, Crystal. Does anybody else missing the sound?
Yeah, I am too.
Okay.
We'll share.
So in essence, you know what?
We'll
Sure, I will share them afterwards. So keep running the video and I'll just talk to it as we go along. Crystal, just keep running the video. So what you're going to see for Lakeview is a complete transformation of those lands. And they're going to start developing the infrastructure from starting on the west side of the property and then going to the east side. You're going to have about 9,000 jobs in the employment area once it's completed. And then the residential towers will range from what you see there, from being like 4-story, 6-story up to condominiums. The condominium towers will be closer to the waterfront. And then the entire waterfront is going to be parkland system and a trail system that's going to, so right now the waterfront trail is up on Lakeshore Road. It's going to come down to the lake. And what you're viewing right now is the innovation district. And this is where the 9,000 jobs will be on 20 acres of property that they're on the site. And part of that property is actually owned by the city of Mississauga. And the Economic Development Office has oversight of those properties and will be in a future looking for partnerships in order to build that property out. So right now, the property is under development. It looks like it's getting its basic grading and that type of thing done on it. And you will see the development roll out over the next couple of years is what you're gonna see for this property. And right beside it, you kind of see in the back in the black and white, that is the waste processing station. My understanding is that the region of Peel is going to invest heavily to minimize any odors coming from the waste treatment site. So that will end up being, helpful as the residential component of this is being built out. The idea for this entire site is it'll be district energy. So it'll be really ecologically sound, and there'll be district energy and waste processing on the site where everything's going to flow into one area. It's a concept that comes out of Sweden, and they've been working very heavily to make this entire project sustainable. That's one of the main focus things. Right now, you're looking at a building that's supposed to be a cultural hub. And one of the lead tenants of that area will be Artscape. So they're trying to make something that's very balanced. And as you can see here, this is the park system. And I think as part of this too, there'll be some parking, and maybe they'll have, if everything goes well in time, this pier will end up having charter boats and that type of thing. So it'll be a full balanced community that will transform all of Lakeview.
Do you have a handle on the total number of residential units that will eventually be there?
I don't off the top of my head, but I'll look into that for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So would I be right in saying it will roughly start at where Cawthra hits, sort of that's just east of Lakefront Promenade? It's
going to be east of Cawthra. It'll be east of Cawthra. I think it's around Hague Boulevard that it comes down into that area. But the connections through are Lakefront Promenade Park. So it's east of Lakefront Promenade Park. And that's where the connections and everything are going to go through, and the development's going to start. There is a sales office on site right now that you can check out and make arrangements with Lakeview Community Partners to learn more about it.
There was some talk about a partnership with a post-secondary institution. Has that been finalized yet?
No, nothing related to the innovation lands has been finalized, but certainly there's approval in principle from the City Council to proceed with looking for partnerships for the development of the innovation corridor. And of course, post-secondary innovation is post-secondary school is something of interest to be an anchor to the innovation district.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Okay. So that's really the updates on infrastructure and the major kind of transformative projects that are going on. So what I want to do now is kind of start giving you a tour of all the information on the websites. And I tried to think, okay, if I was a residential real estate person and I had clients and they're asking me questions, where can I find it easily? So Can you see my, Alex, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking you through with what I know best, which is the economic development website. It's called The Future is Unlimited. And really what this website shows you is what all the industries are. So if you ever have a client that says, I want a job in a life sciences company, you can actually inform them to come here, and there's interactive maps for each of the sectors, and you can find out where the companies are and what the companies are. And this is something that, you know, there's a view map here, some high level overview, but everything really is convenient and easy. And if you have a client who goes, I want to be near Pill Hill, and you see the major concentrations of the life science companies, you can take them onto this and go, you know what, Pill Hill isn't the only concentration of life sciences. In fact, life sciences companies are kind of, you know, there's a big massing in Meadowvale, there's a big massing by the airport, but you can show them exactly where the opportunities are that they might be seeking. Okay, how do I get back out of here? Okay. So I want to go over to resources and data. So in this area here, everything you can think of is easy to find. I'm going to take you through other links as well. Building permits, licensing, property information, taxes, anything on zoning, that type of thing can be found in this area. And then our planning and building department has a planning information hub where you can get other types of insights to help you, but I'm going to walk you through the key ones that would make sense for you guys. So when I go into the planning and building, the areas that might be important to you as residential is actually residential and office inventories tab. And the residential direct map directory will show you everything from development applications to the growth forecast to the density. So if this is all of, I'm just going to go here and open that up, move this. These are your permits right now, but if we go into growth forecast population, the different colors will show you where the different densities are going to be. If we go over to the tab called projected density, you can see a heat map of the city. You can see that the city center is really the hub of it, and then going down to Port Credit. And then as you fade into the lesser colors, you can see that type of information. We'll go down here. There's another tab that might be of interest. It's called the land use tab. And that gets into the land use map, so that you can share with your clients, you know, what's the differences between the areas, just in a very visual manner. If it will come up. Okay. So that's just as a map, an interactive map that you can go into, and it will share with you what exactly everything is, and very informative for your clients. The other one I wanted to point out to you is what they call find property information. So I'm just going to put my home address in, because I know I've done work on my house, and I can show you what will come up. So you can look up any property this way, and you will get what the legal description is. You're going to get the area of the property. I know when you do listings, this kind of information is important. You've got your depth. You get your zoning information. You can tell that my house is an RM7-5. You can find out building permits. Did your client or previous clients actually get building permits? This is very important. So you can see I put a new front porch on, and all the information is there. You can see it's completed, the inspection's been signed off. So you can verify through this what exactly has been done from a permit perspective. The other thing that this can tell you is if there's development applications, which there haven't been, if there's been a committee of adjustment, which there hasn't been, and if there's a heritage. aspect of it. So you'll see here that my house is not listed on a heritage register. So this is so this is a new tool that came out, I think about 2 years ago, but it's during COVID that this one comes out. So the other one I want to pull you over to now is taxes, the property taxes. So everything you can find about the property taxes is here. Now, if you're working with a client and you want to view the property tax information, you actually need to get their PIN number or their roll number in order to do this. You can't actually just get it by having the address. You also have to have the PIN in order to determine what the tax component is for the property. So it's two things that you have to get from your clients. But let's look at another one called, okay, I think that's it on taxes. So now I want to go over to what makes a community wonderful. And that's your parks, your recreation, and our community has everything here in a map view. So if you have clients that are asking you, where are the arenas, where are the community centers? This is important to me. I want to be in close proximity. You can actually go into this interactive map and start filtering what is important from a recreation standpoint and provide that level of information to your clients. And then there's another tab that's all about parks. So everything about finding a park. If people say, I want to be near a park, I want to be near a trail system, you can go into here and find a park and find out those aspects and elements. And again, there's a map view for this. If it comes up. Okay, do you believe me that there's a map? Okay, I'm
Cheryl,
going to go on to something else because this is not loading.
One of the resources
So the next thing, hello?
Hey, Cheryl, one of the resources I went into last week was building applications and development applications, and you can search by ward, which I thought was really pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you Google new development applications, you'll actually see everything that's being processed right now. That's a very important thing. So the other component aspect to a livable community, of course, is transit for anybody who's not car orientated. And this has system maps, it has the schedules, it has everything broken down so that your clients can get an idea about where the transit and how it moves people. But there's another component to the transit, and that's something called trip links. So if you're not familiar with trip links, it actually is an app, and you can do it on your computer or you can do it on an app on your phone. And you can put in your current location and where you're going, and it supports you across the region. So it's integrated with all the transit, the GO Transit, Toronto, everything surrounding Mississauga in the Greater Toronto area. And this is a great tool that complements what we have at the City of Mississauga. Now, I am informing you that we're completing the LRT in 2024, but if anything changes related to the timing, this link will share with you exactly where the locations are or what the timing is for the light rapid transit. And it also has the mapping, the project documents, and all the details related to what's going on with the light rapid transit interregionally and in Mississauga. Now, just some smaller details, and I'll share this afterwards. If you're moving someone to the city and they have a pet, they need a pet license, and so I'll provide that to you. If they're have school-age kids, both the Peel and the Catholic school have websites, and they have an area on these websites called newcomers. So if you go into elementary or secondary and you go new to Peel, everything that's needed in order to set a child up in school is identified on this webpage. And there's the same thing happens for the Catholic School Board as well. Oh, that's the wrong one I want. That's not what I want. Daycares, sorry, I've gone too far. Daycares is another matter, and I think I just stopped sharing. So the region of Peel has a website that has all the locations of the daycares. And it can be, you can find anything that you're looking for, the age groupings, toddler, infants, preschool, anything like that. So this is handy, a handy resource for anybody who is moving into the community that has children that need daycare. The hospitals, everything you need to know about the hospitals is identified on their website, and Credit Valley is known for oncology, and Mississauga is known for heart and stroke. And then the Queensway Hospital, which is actually located in Etobicoke, is more where the diagnostics and day surgeries and that type of thing are located. And then there's waste management, and everybody's always wondering, when am I going to get my garbage picked up? When's this going to happen? And there is actually a way. I'm hearing feedback. Does anybody know why that's happening? No. Okay. So you can actually get send a text. They'll send a text message to you every single week. You can sign up for something like that. So no one ever has to know when or think about it. You'll get a text message the night before you have to put your garbage out. So anything you need to know about exemption dates and all those type of things are located in this area. And I think that that really right now is the end of my formal presentation. And just to remind you, all of the information, all of the links that I have here, I will provide through to Crystal to share with you, as well as Alex. But if you have any other questions right now that I didn't cover, let's have a conversation. And I also love to hear from you guys as to what is happening in the residential area right now, particularly with interest rates going up. What if any impact you're feeling out there right now.
Does anyone have any questions for Cheryl? Cheryl, in a lot of ways, we feel like we're in a bit of a belly right now in the marketplace, not just with rates, but with just general sentiment. And so our biggest challenge in the market, I think, right at this very moment, is people who have, let's say, bought in February, March, when it was at its peak, and are closing sometime between then and, let's say, July, which really would be as far out as those closings would go. So we've got some pretty challenging conversations happening with people who, you know, at the time we had. You would never think of selling first because you were worried that you might not find somewhere to go. And so the people who bought first obviously were in competition 99% of the time. And with that, they paid top dollar for that. And then we're counting on the fact that they would be able to list and sell in the same marketplace. And so that's where we're having a bit of a gap. We believe, though, that if you look at when the peak was, the longest closings would be 60 days, maybe 70 days. So that would put us into July, where we should be kind of any of the conversations and challenges with people. So we've had, for the amount of transactions, by the way, that we participate in, I can count on one hand the amount of tough conversations we've really had, where there may be some deals that don't close, or we're negotiating and we're doing all kinds of stuff. So That's really the biggest challenge. Interest rates, when you really break out the math, the affordability hasn't changed a whole lot. The trick is the stress test is still in place.
Okay.
And so the ability to qualify due to the stress test is really the bigger problem. And so, but we feel that most of our residential clients are staying variable.
And what's the advantage of staying variable?
Historically, you're always ahead staying variable in the residential marketplace. And we have Raymond Diaz from the mortgage industry here that is nodding his head and smiling. Raymond, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, variable performs well historically, but in terms of the gap between a current variable rate and a 5-year fix, it's so big that it definitely makes sense. And then Alex mentioned something about the stress test. The rule is actual interest rate +2 or the 5.25%, which is the effective stress test rate. So what happens is that because of the 5-year fix and all the fixed rates are so high, you're looking at closer to 5%. Typically, you know, if you're looking at a fixed rate, you're trying to qualify at 6.5%, 7%. Versus a variable rate, you're still in that 5.25, 5.3. So if a borrower needs to borrow as much money as possible, so to stretch their borrowing capacity,
Right.
a variable rate does give them the ability to do that.
Thank you so much for those insights. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Are you seeing house sales stop, or are people still out in the market looking?
We have lots of transactions. I was pleased to see how many deposits we had coming in the last 2 weeks. So they're still transacting for sure.
Okay,
and
fantastic.
Funny, in some of our further out markets where the price point is still lower, they're still in multiples all the time. And there's Pinder there saying multiple offers 6 days out of the last 8. Absolutely.
And what are the banks saying if you get into a multiple, and of course the price is going to be above what the listing is? Are the banks open to lending the money given kind of what's going on right now? Is there any challenges there?
Sure. Looking in the rearview mirror, it seemed like everything got approved and everything appraised.
Okay.
And a lot of the appraisals weren't even happening with anyone physically visiting the property.
Oh, wow.
Now we've got much more attention being paid by the banks because let's face it, they're definitely default adverse. And so there's been zero default in the marketplace in the last 2 years, like nothing, which is, you know, just reflective of the marketplace.
Right.
In that if somebody was sort of upside down or in trouble, they could sell their way out of it.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody?
Ray, can I ask you the gap between the current variable and the, let's call it the 5-year rate for an A client?
So let's say 2 of the major lenders, they're a little bit over. So Scotiabank and TD right now, they're in around just under 5% for TD, but it's going to be over 5% on the 5-year fix starting tomorrow because they're going to increase their rate. Yeah. And the variable rate is around anywhere from 3.2 to 3.4%. So you're looking at, you know, 1.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Significant gap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
What are you hearing in economic development? What secrets can you tell us that are not public? Are there big companies coming to town that we should know about?
You know, the challenge is there are things happening, and Berlioz is a company out of the United States just announced that they're going to come to Mississauga, and so it'll be about 400 jobs. The challenge right now is it'll be led by somebody who's international, and getting visas to get into Canada has been very challenging as the embassies around the world have been getting their staff back in and processing the visa applications. So as an example, somebody from India back a month ago would have to wait 53 weeks to get their visa processed. So of course, you know, that has a downstream effect for your industry, and that we're waiting for all of these people to come and to immigrate and to go to school and to be in businesses and to do these things. And depending on what stream they're coming through, it could take them well up to a year in order to get here. So from the business lens, it's certainly COVID and this challenge across all the consulates in the world processing the visas has slowed our pipeline down for new investments in the city, but it's also slowing the talent to get here to address some critical shortages in some of the industries falling out of COVID.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Which firm was that moving out of the US?
Brilio.
What do they do?
IT. So similar to Cognizant and similar to Accenture and that type of thing. We have a lot of enterprise software companies in the city, but they've made announcement that they're coming to the city. It's just now getting people in the country. Has been our biggest challenge for the last 5-6 months, is working with the different levels of government and trying to, find pathways for people to come here.
That's a major project.
And First Golf just announced in partnership with Sphere Streets Capital that they're going to be building up to 360,000 square feet of life science laboratory space in Sheridan Park.
Wow.
So that's exciting news. Bora Pharmaceuticals bought the GSK plant up in Meadowvale Business Park. So they've kept that plant going and, they're job creating up in that area. So I say from the standpoint of the industries right now, life sciences is definitely on fire in Mississauga, but across the region. And there's lots of, lots of money at the federal and the provincial level trying to solve things coming out of COVID and make sure that we're pandemic prepared. So there's lots of opportunities there. And the other industries seem to be having skill shortages. That hasn't stopped. We're not seeing anybody right now at this point doing layoffs or anything that might come about should the market turn into sort of like a recession type style. We're not seeing that. We're still seeing that we have a labor shortage. We need to solve the labor shortage. And the challenge right now to solving the labor shortage is the immigration pathways to Canada.
So barring the sort of the bit of a funnel we have that's slowing the process, do you have an estimate of what the capacity is for new jobs or the desire for companies to bring in new talent? Do you have an idea of what kind of numbers we're talking about for employees?
I'm not certain. I wouldn't have numbers for that.
Yeah. Okay.
I do know that Mayor Crombie had mentioned probably about a week or so ago that we have 20,000 units approved for development in Mississauga. So we do have a pipeline of new residential that could be triggered to be created, but it's just a matter of when the demand is there or the right moments in time are there for the builders.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is most people who relocate into Southern Ontario, they may land with short-term rental or maybe a one-year rental. Many of them want to buy, and they believe in the Southern Ontario marketplace for sure. So,
that's good. That's good news.
No, it's great. What else do you see on the horizon, Cheryl? What's in your position, you have the ability to kind of see things happening, and clearly life sciences, I had no idea that it was that much of an impactful industry or area.
I think you're going to see the innovation agenda in Mississauga broaden. So a new incubator is going to be opening up in Square One in October. It's called IDEA, and it's about innovation Mississauga. So it's going to link eventually with the Lakeview Innovation Corridor, which will be built out probably in about 10 years. Right. But behind the scenes, Mississauga isn't very good at advertising just the innovation that's going on. I've always said we're a city of engineers, and there's all this innovation happening. SHRED applications at the federal level tell us that there's tons of innovation going on behind the scenes that we aren't broadly stroked aware of. So you're going to see that innovation agenda just increase and resources put to it at the local, the provincial, and the federal level to help entrepreneurs and help companies build businesses and build tomorrow's technologies, and really make sure that we have a pathway to commercialization that is supported by all three levels of government within the city.
Well, seeing from presentation today and drilling into the EDO website prior to your presentation, you guys have been busy through COVID.
They have. Well, we had to pivot and put everything into the digital. So behind the scenes, we have a couple people, Jordan specifically, who's just been making the website more robust and taking us from paper and putting us into digital and building out those assets. And I think over the next 12 months, you're going to see that website even build out and expand even further, and particularly the downtown Mississauga website, because we're really going to be putting more intentional effort trying to steer the marketplace there into more mixed use, and make sure that we have a healthy range of employment there for the people who are locating in that location.
We have a question from Denise Dilby, and before I read you the question, we had talked about a registry for secondary suites. So you can actually search in Mississauga and you can see which properties have one. But what's happening in Mississauga with the future of the additional suites?
The Planning and Building Department, I know, is undertaking some work around secondary suites. I'm not up to speed exactly what it is, but what I can do following this presentation is I'll find the report that went to council, and I'll make sure that I get that over to Crystal and Alex.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. We'll distribute it. That's great. Are there any other questions? Well, on behalf of all of us, Cheryl, I just really want to thank you for coming out. We've had a couple of technical blips this morning, but everything you've got here is great. I'm particularly interested in digging into more information on particularly Lakeview, so that we can be on top of it. As you know, that's probably a 10-year project, 15-year project by the time we're done.
Yeah, around that time. Brightwater's rolling out right now, so that's immediate. I'd say the next 5 to 7 years. And yes, Lakeview is going to be your next 10, 15 years as the phasing of it goes out.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate you coming out.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invitation, Alex. Thank you, Crystal, for your support this morning. And I hope the insights shared today help you and help your clients.
I'm sure they will. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.